find it interesting that no doubt, as you referenced earlier, we have in the book of Ephesians 2:2 and 6:12 and 13 there that the enemy, in this sense, the prince of the power of the air, and then in this reference we have heavenly places. So this is common in really, I would say, biblical theology, that the enemy likes to hang out in the air, in the heavenly places. And I think this is probably why you have high places as sacrificial places in the Old Testament. As we know, like Solomon didn't tear down the high places. We also know a lot of times, even in Mesopotamia, Near Eastern religious mythology, they loved mountaintops because there was and even go back to the Tower of Babel. They were trying to reach up into where? The heavens in order to do these things. And so the interesting thing about it is, so you have this idea that the air is kind of the realm of the enemy in the spirit world, the spiritual hosts of wickedness. So what I find fascinating is if you go to the book of Revelation, chapter 12, that in that future war between Michael and his angels and Satan and his angels, Satan and his angels are cast down to the earth. It's like they're cast out of that heavenly realm, or that air, A-I-R realm, and they're forced to stay in the ground, which makes him very mad, and he knows his time is short. But so I'm not surprised then that when we look at the future, and that's kind of what we want to discuss is, I'm not saying that these drones are supernatural, demonic, or anything like that, because the evidence seems to be that they're not necessarily, they are clearly conventional, or military, or even what you were describing with Louis Elizondo is maybe some reverse engineered craft or whatever. But let's say that they are UAP of some kind, like genuine non-human UAP. Okay. Nevertheless, or even the orbs. I think that we'll talk about the orbs in a minute. But what we wanted to do today is, like you read Revelation or Ephesians 2, but Luke 21, as we look forward to the end of the age, Jesus makes a comment here, and he says in Luke 21:25, there will be signs in the sun and the moon and the stars, and on the earth, distress of nations. That's a pretty strong word.
It is.
Distress of nations in perplexity because of these things. The roaring of the sea and the waves. Okay, that's one thing that's going to cause distress and perplexity among the nations. The second thing in verse 26, people fainting with fear and with foreboding of what is coming on the world. Okay, for the powers of the heavens will be shaken. So you have all the things that people, their normal realm of understanding is going to be turned upside down. And then I would say this, that in the Matthew 24 passage, which is a corollary to this of the Olivet Discourse, the first thing that Jesus said is, when they were describing, they want to know about the end of the age, Jesus said, don't let anybody deceive you. Beware.
Yeah.
Deception, Gary, is going to be the main sign of the end of the age. And truth, what is truth? I mean, you think about right now, the Pentagon is, the militaries, they're coming out lying to us. So as a Christian then, we know where we're heading, that truth is going to be tossed in the streets. How do we even know it's true anymore? And we have the scripture for sure.
And Satan is well known for one thing, and that is disillusionment, casting doubts upon everything in which you believe. He lies professionally. He knows how to lie. And I'm thinking, you go back to the foundation of Israel, back to 1898, it is really where the first, what we came to call UFOs, were seen. And there have been many books written. You come forward from 1898 to 1948, and in that vicinity you have the famous Roswell event, and you have the Foo Fighters of World War II, and on and on and on. And I don't want to recite all of the UFO lore here, except to say that I have long believed that what we call UFOs, now UAPs, have a lot to do with the legions of Satan. They are, and particularly when you begin to read about UFO abduction. I've got L.A. Marzulli's book here called Rungs of Disclosure, which, by the way,
he did a good job in that book.
He did a good job. And he essentially links satanic activity with the whole UAP phenomenon, including very strange operations, capturing men and women and performing surgeries of various kinds.
The whole abduction phenomenon.
And then bringing them back and letting them live the rest of their lives, not happily in many cases. And so what we've got here is a situation in which we have to very carefully analyze what we're seeing, and we don't want to jump too far into the occult. And yet something's going on, and people are upset about it.
Yeah, I think that the key in all this is, look, I am a thoroughbred all the way supernaturalist. I believe the Bible, so I have no problem with any of it. I also, I've enjoyed for most of my life conspiracy theories, okay? But I also am very scientific, again, doing archaeology and studying a lot of astronomy. You come to say, okay, I understand the limits of what we can put in an empirical formula or test. But the key thing in all this is to stay balanced, in that we don't immediately go to everything supernatural, because that's what I saw a lot of, is these drones were happening and everybody's like, it's supernatural, and you're like, well, okay, hold on a minute, don't jump to conclusions yet. And so sure enough, as we saw more and more videos come to be, we saw the lights, the green light on the right wing and the white on the back, and you're like, no, these are real drones. And people have been getting great pictures, as we know with our phones now, or we can zoom in, the phones are great. And so, but we don't want to be too quick to just throw a supernatural label on it or a demonic label. But on the other hand, we keep, hey, everything's open. So some of them, and this is kind of would be the best mix of a deception, whether it's by the military or others, is to have things all mixed together. I wouldn't be surprised then if those that are perpetrating this, those that are perpetrating it would potentially mix in. Why not have a UAP, a genuine UAP, come in the midst of all this when there's all this distraction? The other option that people are talking about is maybe this is a foreign agent. Maybe it could be the Chinese or something sending their drones. But I find that highly problematic in the sense that, again, as we mentioned earlier, NORAD and others, they're watching these things. They know it. That's just part of what they do. So the fact that they're not being shot down, or they're not being shot down because maybe they have chemical weapons on them, don't know. But unfortunately, I don't imagine that they would just allow it. They would. I can't imagine that they wouldn't do an EMP or some other type of pulse to bring it down to some degree.
Well, and you mentioned the fact that I've been a pilot for years, and the one thing that I really noticed during my years of flying was the continuing buildup of radar coverage over the United States, to the point that within the last 10 years, if you're flying, you're on radar.
You're on radar.
And it's high-tech radar.
Talk about the communication. I mean, when you would fly from one place to one small place to another, you had to be in communication, right? Didn't you have a flight log and all that? Or, how'd that work?
Well, you talk to air traffic control, and they assign you a code number. And on the panel of your airplane, you have what's called a transponder. You turn on the transponder before you take off. And after you take off, you talk to air traffic control, and they give you a number. It might be 2837. And so you dial 2837 into your transponder, and they see you on their screen as number 2837. And wherever you go, they see your number. And from the time you take off till the time you land, and that is true all over the United States.
Even more so now, right?
Even more so. So if something like an airplane-sized drone came flying around and they got a radar return without a transponder number, that is a red flag. Well, the bells ring, and everybody gets upset and said, we've got to detour this airliner who is scheduled to fly through this airspace at such and such time. And that's what you've got over the whole United States, air traffic control.